Hi guys, so all these parts on the floor in front of me are what's going to go into a computer I'm about to build. This isn't a video like a how-to guide or anything like that, but I just wanted to sort of show how I'm going to go about putting it together. I'm no pro, you know, I've put several computers together over the years, and this one is for a friend. His name's Sam. He's recently started like filming videos for YouTube, and he's asked me to build him what I would regard as a little bit above entry, but not much, PC for video editing really. So we did a little bit of research. I didn't have any experience with video editing before. I'm more into the gaming side of things. But we've come up with what we think will be quite a good machine. He had a budget in mind. It wasn't to be over 1,000, and we've come in just under. I think it was at about 950, so that's pounds. And hopefully, all being well, this should go together. We're going to put Windows 10 on it at the end, and should be a pretty good machine. We shall see. So parts-wise, just to run through what we've gone for a Sharkoon ATX case. It's got 3 fans. I believe he went for, I think he wanted green, but he got this off Amazon. Lots of the parts here came off Amazon actually, because they were very competitive on pricing, and also what they had in stock. But it's got 3 case fans, and should do the job lovely. As I think, there's 3 versions of this. They basically do it in red, green, and blue. And this is the RGB version, as far as I'm aware. We've got an EVGA 600 watt power supply. I'd done my research a little bit about this graphics card, Radeon RX580. I mean, any of you who've got a 580 or know much about AMD cards, you'll know that they're generally a bit more power hungry than what the later Nvidia ones are. So we needed something that was going to support that. So you've got XFX Radeon RX580, which is, I'd probably say it's an upper mid-end card. It can handle 4K to a lower degree, but it's more aimed at sort of 1080p gaming. Might be alright at Quad HD as well. I guess we'll see, but it's definitely a really strong 1080p card. But he's actually gone for, as you can see, a Ryzen 7 3700X. So this is the 8 core as opposed to the 3600, which is a 6 core. But it was a decision where basically we felt that the 3600 would have been fine, but we were looking more for like long-term upgrade potential in the future with the computer. We wanted something that was going to last, and it made more sense, we thought, probably for an 8 core as opposed to a 6. Then we've gone for 32 gig of RAM. Could have got away with 16, would have been probably fine, but pushed the boat out, and he's actually gone for 32 gig. Why the hell not? So yep. Corsair Vengeance. We've gone for an M2 NMVE PCIe Sabrent rocket. Don't know much about this, to be honest. I do know that it's supposed to be pretty damn quick though, so they've got really good reviews, and they're very competitive on price. I think this came in about 130 quid. The card was 160, this was 50, case was 50. RAM was about 155, I think, and just trying to think, the processor was 280. I want to say 281, but yeah. And then we've gone for a light on CD or just DVD rewriter. I mean, obviously not everybody goes for rewriters, but he wanted a disk drive, and a Asus Prime B450 motherboard. So that's everything. That's the parts. Now it's time to put them together. So now the first thing I've done is I've actually disconnected the front of the case, because I've got get the disk drive in. Now, if you can see in here, you've got these tags. Now they release, and you can actually push. Now, a lot of cases don't have disk drive slots anymore. But I needed to get that out before I put the CD drive in. The CD drive will actually fit into this part here and then lock into place. So yeah, that's what I've done. But to get that off, I actually just had to push. It's quite easy. You normally get similar sort of things on all cases, but these things, these tags, they slot through these holes here, and basically all you have to do is squeeze them in. You have to kind of be quite careful, so you do like the bottom first, both sides. You've got them, there's 3, and you've got them all the way up here. And you kind of work it away, so you do the bottom, both sides, and then the mid. Or you can do one side and then do the other. That's how I did it anyway. So yeah, so that's now off, so I can now put that back on and fit the disk drive. So having had the front off, and obviously I've just clipped it back in, I did have to take some cellophane off from the inside of this and just off the outside as well before I put it back on, because obviously I don't want to leave it on the inside, that won't look too good. But yeah, so I slotted the disk drive in, literally just pushes in from the front, and then on this case, and this is pretty similar on most cases now, I mean this is a fairly inexpensive case, not as expensive as some obviously, £50, but basically you've got this little, if I can just get it off, you've got this little locking tool. Actually doesn't want to come back out of there now, but basically it's got 2 little pins, and you just pin them into these bits here. So you just, it's come out now. 2 seconds, hold on. So yeah, so it's now located in both of those holes, the 2 little pins on each end, and then you just turn it left, I think, on this one to lock it. So that's, he says it's now in. Yeah, so I've just redone that. Basically 2 pins in there either side, and then you just turn that left, and that locks into a lug at the back, and now the disk drive won't come out. So yeah, only one on. There's not one on the other side. Some of them will have that sort of thing on both sides. Right, guys. So having put the front back on, got the CD drive in place, and just basically like trying to get the wires so that they're out. The wires that were in, the case wires, so that they're out of the way. And they're not going to cause me any problems when I'm putting the motherboard in or any of the other components. First thing I'm going to do is, and it's been a while, but pretty sure I've got to put the power supply in first, so that's what I'm going to do. It's basically it's just 4 screws on these, holds them in at the back. It's quite simple really. So that's now what I'm going to do. So I'm going to slot that in. They usually go fan side up. So I shall put that in, that basically goes in there like that, and then it's just a case of lining up. Let's turn the light on a second. There we go, just a case of lining up these holes with the back of the power supply and screwing that in. So as you can see, power supply is now in, cables are all bundled up here. This isn't a modular one, so that is, all the cables are all part of the power supply on this. And those 4 screws in there. Now from this point on, I'm going to put the motherboard in now, which involves screwing the board down to these screws at the back of the case. You need to wear, I say you could do it without it, but it's a bit risky. You need a static strap really from this point on. So I've got my static strap, so I'm now going to put that on, and I'm going to get the motherboard out and fit it. So I almost forgot, I've actually got to fit the I/O plate, which is, the I/O plate goes in here. That's this thing. It's where your ports and everything sit. So that's gonna slot in from the back, so from in this way. You got to make sure I get it around the right way. It should be that way, yeah. So you push it in like that before you put the board in, because obviously you don't want to be putting the board in and then realising that you've missed the I/O plate out. So just as well I remembered. So as you can see, the I/O plate is now in, and it's literally just a case of just pushing it in right at the far edges, so at these points here, around the edges. And as you can see from the back, that's now in place. So I did actually show it was the other way around. This is of course where your headphones and speakers and stuff plug into, microphone and that, and of course your mouse and keyboard always plug in at the top. So yeah, that's all in. So motherboard time. Okay, so the motherboard's now in. It was a little bit fiddly because I had to navigate past these cables that run through the back of the case there, and also just getting into the I/O plate was a bit of a, it might be because I haven't done one for a while, but it was a little bit of a pain in the butt just trying to get that in there. But it's now in, and all I've got to do is put the screws in. Okay, so this is where I'm at. Screws are now in for the motherboard, so it's all in line properly, and I've actually started running the cables through, so a lot of them come through from the front panel back out the back of the case, and this is just for tidiness really. And then I've run the majority of the front cables through here to here. So you've got like USB 3, USB 2 panel, you've got your little speaker there, and power. This case doesn't seem to have a reset button. Not that really matters. I mean, you can do it from in Windows nowadays. That's probably why it's not included. Keeps costs down. And also that's for your front audio, so you like for your speaker and microphone and stuff. And so yeah, so I'm just going to make sure that's all nice and tidy, and then I'm going to see about probably putting in the SSD. Now, this is the SSD. Okay, it's not your standard type of hard drive. Actually slots into the M2 port on the motherboard, and I've never actually put one of these in, but I'm pretty sure what I've got to do is, with the motherboard comes this little screw, and I've got to put it into the right slot on the board. I've not done this before, so this is new to me, but yeah, I've got to put it in there, and then I have to put the SSD into the slot. I've still got my static strap on, by the way, so that should be for the right end. This is total new to me. I've, like I said, never done this before, but how hard can it be? So yeah, so that's in, and that's just to secure the SSD in place, I'm guessing. I'm now going to put the SSD, so that means slotting it into that port there. So that will go in like that, and then there should be a little screw to go into that port, just to, I'll show you afterwards, but just to secure it into place. Yeah, seems like I was right. Probably should have looked at the motherboard manual, really, probably says in there. But that little screw seems to hold that in nicely. Slots in, pushes down, and just screws in. So yeah, onto the processor now, which means I'm going to have to lift this up to release that. Actually, just releases the socket, get the processor out, slot it in the right way, and then go about putting the CPU fan on. So the processor now in. Literally, like, all you have to do is make sure that you get the thing around the right way. It's got loads of pins on the back. I mean, obviously most of you will, I guess, have seen a processor before, but on the back of the processor obviously there's hundreds of pins, and you have to make sure there's a specific way the processor goes in. It's actually got one corner that has less pins than the other, and once you locate it right, it's literally it'll just fall into place, and then you just close it down with that prong down there. So now I've got to just try and figure out how to get the CPU fan out. Not done an AMD one in a while, so this could be interesting. Okay guys, so the CPU fan is now on. I hadn't done one of them for a little while, AMD. I'm a bit better with the Intel ones, but basically this clips on at the bottom here, and it's the same the other side. There's like a tag just down there, and basically when you put that on, that has to be level so that you can get the prongs that clip on either side, those silver prongs, to their fullest extent, and you clip it on this side, clip it on the other side, and then you have to give it quite a firm push down that way, so sort of over in that on that black tag there, sorry, it has to come all the way over and down, and then that's locked into place. I mean, you could pretty much pick the motherboard up with that. I wouldn't do it with the case attached, but it's once it's on, it's really firm. And then what I've done is I've plugged that little cable in there, which is the one for to power the LED fan. The CPU fan is actually powered by this cable, so that clips onto the CPU fan port on the motherboard there. It connects on the motherboard, and this one actually clips, well, it connects onto one of the USB ports here. So you've got one for the header at the front, for the USB ports on the front of the case, and the other one is powering the fan. This one's powering the fan, the light, I'm guessing. So yeah, so far so good. We're getting there now. It's pretty much just, I'm wondering if I've left myself enough room in that actually. No, I think I have, because the graphics card has got to go under that. But yeah, so I'm going to probably put the RAM in now, and then graphics card, and then we're getting to the point where we can sort the power cables out. I've got two sticks, two 16 gig sticks. I'm actually going to be putting them in ports A2 and B2 on the motherboard. So I've got to release these here. It's pretty easy to put RAM in, and actually you don't even have to do it at this side. It's literally just on the end. So you get your stick. It can only go in one way. You can see the pins on that side where the split is slightly longer than the other side, so it has to go in this way. Well, I'm not going to be able to do this one-handed, so I'm actually just going to pause this. Remember, you push it in, locating the side nearest me first, and then when you push it down, once it's in straight, obviously, that will then push that lug back in, and once that lug is back in, as you push it down, you'll know it's secure. So I shall just do that. So both of those are now in, and you should be able to see that they are now flush. So this is the clips I'm talking about. Before you put it in, you have to release that, and then as you push this thing down, it will actually locate back in. So they are now, as they've gone back in, they're now located. So the graphics card is going to be going into the PCIe slot just below the SSD, just down there. And I've had to remove these two covers. I'm not even sure what they're called, to be honest, to make room for them. So because it takes up two slots, this graphics card. Most decent graphics cards do, and yeah, so I'm now going to do that, and I shall continue this once I've slotted it into place. So I've got the graphics card in. It's all wired up. I was going to try like my hardest to get this cable management better, but I've failed. It's not my strong point. I may have to address it again later. So as you can see, the computer booted, and yeah, alright, my cable management's not the best, but to be honest, in the dark it looks pretty cool anyway. Something I'm going to have to try and work on. But the lights are all working. In this case, actually, it's pretty cool. It's got a controller built in. I think my mate's going to be really pleased with it because he actually wanted the green LEDs. Well, turns out he can have that as one of the options. You press the reset button and you can cycle through all the different colours. So there you go, Sam. Take your pick, mate. Have whatever you fancy. That's actually cycling colours there, is it? There we go, got some more. It's like a disco. I can see why people like these cases. I actually have one that just has red fans. But yeah, I can see the appeal. They are pretty cool. Oh. I think he's going to be really pleased. So now all I've got to do is get it set up with Windows, and jobs are good. It's Saturday now. I've been obviously at work Thursday and Friday, and I've only had the evenings to look at this. But basically, like when I came to install Windows, I had an absolute nightmare, and it all turned out to be because the version of Windows I was trying to install was on the disk, and it was so old that there was just loads of compatibility issues. In the end, I went on my computer and downloaded the latest version, stuck it onto a disk, reinstalled it again, and it's working absolutely perfectly. Yeah, so absolute nightmare. What can I tell you about it? So the RAM is running at the speed it should be, which is good. I've ran 2 different like stress tests on it, or benchmarks even. I say stress test, benchmark. I benchmarked the graphics using the Uni Engine Heaven benchmark specifically. Got some pretty decent scores. 1080p, I think it was like 2200, which is pretty good for a £160 graphics card. And also ran a stress test on the CPU, and that came in fine. Temperatures are absolutely fine, nothing to worry about there. So I've done that. Windows is now running perfectly. What else can I tell you? I mean, hopefully Sam's going to be really pleased with it. Sorry about my appalling cable management. When you've got as much gear, like equipment out as I have, it's not much you can do about it. Well, I'm not talking about the cable management in the computer, I'm talking about the stuff down there. But yeah, so I have actually addressed the cables in here, and actually they're much tinier now. So I'm pretty pleased with that. I think Sam will be too. Probably just going to, when this finishes installing, I'm probably just going to run Warcraft and see how that sort of, what sort of frame rates that gets. Not from a graphics card point of view. I mean, graphically, I know what this graphics card is going to do. It's going to run 1080p like a dream, and probably quad HD to a lesser extent, but still well, I would have thought. 4K, who knows? Shan't worry about that at the moment. That's not what this was built for. It's not really a 4K graphics card, but it'll be interesting to see what it will do. May try it out on a few things at some point. But yeah, budget-wise, this came in. I'm just trying to think now. So it was just over £1,000, because we ended up having to buy a legitimate version of Windows, and we bought it from Microsoft just to make sure that it was going to be legit, because the keys we've been getting just weren't working. So now, he's got a refund on those anyway, and it's now got a legitimate version of Windows in. He could have not paid for Windows and just used it as it was off the disc, because unlike the old versions of Windows, you don't get a 30-day trial anymore. It basically just reminds you, and you'll get like a watermark on the screen saying activate Windows. But you don't, as it stands at the moment, you're not supposed to run it without a license, but you can. So it's something he could have done if he'd wanted to, but then he wouldn't have been able to customize any of the background or anything, the desktop color. And also he would have been a little bit more susceptible to viruses, I think. I'm not sure what the other differences are, if there is much, but you can pretty much run Windows for free nowadays. But so yeah, the PC in total came in at about £900 in terms of it was just over £900, about 903 or 900 and something like that. I'd have to total it up again just to be sure, but by the time you got Windows on, it's about £1,000. So you're talking about £1,000 computer here. I've been looking on other sites to see what other people would charge, and I think we've probably saved in the region of it's off a PC specialist, so somebody who's building computers. I'd have thought we've saved a minimum of about £150 doing it ourselves, or for me building it. So and I'm not going to charge him, because obviously he's a really good friend of mine. So I've built this for free, basically. But yeah, I've enjoyed building it, and I've learned how to install one of those PCIe M2 SSDs, and I've learned about not using old versions of Windows, and I've learned how to get the RAM to the correct speed, like in the overclocking part of the motherboard. Not by nothing particularly traumatic, but I've learned a few things, and every time I build a computer, I learn a little bit more. So yeah, so it's now just a case of getting over to him and seeing what he thinks about it. We're looking at here, we're looking at a £50 case with an £85 motherboard. We've got a £50 power supply in there, a quality power supply. It's white plus 80 plus white rated power supply, 600 watts. So we've got an 8-core Ryzen, a £280 processor, and that was actually cheap at that price. So yeah, RAM, Corsair RAM, 32 gig, 3200 megahertz. Again, more RAM than he's probably going to need, and an 8 gig video card. you know, this machine's going to destroy 1080p gaming and is probably going to be better for more like 1440p. So I would have thought performance-wise, you're looking something here that's probably, you're talking, I would have thought performance-wise somewhere in the region of where the current gen games consoles are at. The sort of the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X probably falls in between the two. Probably closer to the Xbox One, I would have thought, than the PS4 Pro. But yeah, I know it's a lot more money than one of those, but this is much more capable of more things than what they are too. So anyway, guys, like I say, I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope I've kind of given you an idea into what is required into building a reasonable PC. I know there's loads of videos on YouTube, but somebody might benefit from this, and if nobody has, I have, and Sam will hopefully enjoy it. So yeah, I'll get that round to him tonight, and hopefully get it set up, and job will be a good one. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care. Bye bye.